students, on the last turn we have discussed properties and uses of base acids, and today we will start with properties of bases. So, according to your previous knowledge, as you know that the substances that are bitter in taste, bitter means kadwe, the substances that are bitter in taste are bases, and beside that you know that they turn red litmus blue. So, you know the examples of bases from your earlier knowledge. The bases are sodium hydroxide, which is also called as caustic soda, and its chemical formula is NaOH. Then caustic potash or potassium hydroxide, that is KOH. Then CaOH whole twice, calcium hydroxide, and magnesium hydroxide, MgOH whole twice. So, these are the examples of bases. Now, on the basis of strength, bases are of two types, and these are strong bases and weak bases. Strong bases and weak bases. Strong bases, which are also called as alkalis. So, these are the bases which are called as water soluble bases. So, the bases which completely ionized or dissociate means break down into ions when dissolved in water are called strong bases. So, example is NaOH, KOH, NaOH. It break into dissociate in aqueous form in Na positive plus OH negative ions. With, other example KOH, it also form as K positive and OH negative in aqueous form. So, these are the strong bases, and these are, as they are water soluble, so these are called as alkalis. So, alkalis are the bases which are soluble in water. Now, next is other types of bases, weak bases. The bases which do not dissociate or ionize into ions completely are weak bases. These are called as insoluble or less soluble bases also. So, examples are calcium hydroxide, CaOH, and NH4OH. So, calcium hydroxide and ammonium hydroxide, they dissociate in this form Ca2 positive plus OH negative, and in case of NH4OH, NH4 positive plus OH negative. Here you are seeing this sign. Sign is like this. This sign means that the ions formed can combine to form hydroxide again. So, in weak bases, in examples of weak bases, we put this sign as they again combine to form the hydroxide. When they dissociate, firstly they dissociate and then again they form the hydroxide. Now, properties of bases. So, first property of bases is that they are bitter in taste. Second property is they are soapy to touch or feels slippery to skin, as when we touch soap solution or soap, it feels slippery. Next property of bases is that they turns red litmus to blue. When we use red litmus to check them, red litmus turns to blue. Next property is they conduct electricity. Like acids, they also are called as electrolytes. When they dissolve in water, they produce OH negative ions and conduct electricity. Now, next property of bases is reaction with metals. So, reaction with metal, when they react with metal, they also form salt and hydrogen. Reaction with metals. Bases react with some of the metals, metal plus base, they form salt and hydrogen. We can take the example of zinc, Zn plus base NaOH, they form salt, that is Na2ZnO2, sodium zincate plus hydrogen. With aluminium also they give the reaction in the similar manner, and Al plus NaOH NaAlO2 plus H2O. So, with aluminium they form sodium aluminate, and with zinc they form sodium zincate. Now, next is the reaction with non-metallic oxide. Non-metallic oxide. So, in this case, when this base react with non-metallic oxide, base plus non-metallic oxide, it forms salt and water. So, we can take the example of CO2, NaOH plus CO2, non-metallic oxide, then it forms Na2 means sodium carbonate, Na2CO3 plus H2O. Other example we can take of calcium hydroxide, CaOH whole twice, CaOH whole twice plus CO2. It forms CaCO3 plus H2O. Calcium carbonate and water is formed. So, in this reaction you see that non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature, mean they act as acid, and like that they form the salt and water. Now, reaction of bases with water, with acids. This reaction you have done earlier in case of acids also, and the reaction between acid and base is called as neutralization reaction. So, reaction of base with acid. Although we have taken the example earlier, acid plus base, salt plus water. We can take the example HCl plus NaOH, formation of NaCl plus water. So, this reaction we have discussed earlier, and this reaction is called as neutralization reaction. When an acid neutralizes a base, and formation of salt, NaCl, sodium chloride, this is a salt, along with water is called as neutralization reaction. In this case, H positive from HCl and OH negative from NaOH is helpful in formation of H2O. Mean H positive and OH negative form the H2O. Next is we can take other example also, that is HCl acid plus CaOH calcium hydroxide. Mean reaction of hydrochloric acid with calcium hydroxide, this forms CaCl2 plus H2O, calcium chloride and water is formed. Now next is reaction of acid with metal oxide, reaction of base with metal oxide. Acid plus metal oxide, it also form salt plus water. So while we take the example of HCl plus CaO metal oxide, it forms CaCl2 plus H2O. So in this case calcium is a metal, thus calcium oxide is a metallic oxide which is basic in nature. When this calcium oxide is basic in nature and it forms the salt calcium chloride and water. So this is also in this case also acid when acid react with calcium oxide, neutralization reaction takes place and calcium chloride along with water is formed. Other example that we can take is of zinc oxide, ZnO plus HCl, ZnCl2 plus H2O, means zinc chloride and water is formed. Now uses of bases. Bases also have some of the uses like acids, like NaOH, which is also called as caustic soda. It is used in soap industry, paper industry and textile industry. Rayon, which is a synthetic fiber, it can be manufactured by using sodium hydroxide. Then calcium hydroxide, which is also called as slag lime, it is used in preparation of bleaching powder, CaOCl2. Mean salt of bleaching powder can be made by using slag lime or calcium hydroxide. Then magnesium hydroxide, which is also called as milk of magnesia, is used as an antacid to neutralize the excessive acid in the stomach and cure indigestion. So this is also the use of base, magnesium hydroxide. Next is potassium hydroxide, or called as caustic potash, KOH. It is used as electrolyte in batteries and also in manufacture of fertilizers. Next is NaHCO3 or sodium hydrogen carbonate or sodium bicarbonate, which is used as baking soda in cooking food and bakery items to make them spongy. So these are the uses of bases. Now what do all acids and bases have in common? I mean, what is there in all acids and all bases in common? So, in case while we were discussing the properties of acids, we come to know that all acids have common properties, means that they all give hydrogen gas when they react with metals. This shows that all acids contain hydrogen. As you see in the examples of HCl, H2SO4, HNO3, etc., that all contain hydrogen. Beside that, when an acid is dissolved in water, it always dissociates hydrogen ion. They produce ion when they dissolve in water, and the dissociation of hydrogen ion in aqueous or solution form is the common property in all acids. And because of dissociation of hydrogen ion in aqueous solution, an acid shows acidic behavior. For example, if we take the example of HCl, HCl in aqueous form, it forms H positive and Cl negative ions, mean hydrogen ions and chloride ions. And in case of acetic acid, CH3 COOH, it also break like that, CH3COO negative and plus H positive, mean acetate ion. This is acetate ion and hydrogen ion. So, acids produce hydrogen ion, and due to this acids show acidic behavior. In the similar manner, bases also have some common property, they also dissociate into OH negative ions when in aqueous form, and this property of base is responsible for basic behavior of a compound. So, we can take the example of a base also, that is NaOH. It also break down Na positive plus OH negative ion. And other example is KOH. It also break as K positive and OH negative ion. Production of this OH ions is responsible for basic behavior of a compound. So, this is all for today. On next turn, we will talk about dilution of acids and bases. Beside that, tomorrow I will give some of the questions. You have to try those questions. That's all for today.